Hey guys, welcome back to my podcast YouTube channel. We're kind of doing dual work right now, getting used to the different formats and where we get the most play and replay and shares. So for the time being on CommonGirl Creations, we're going to be posting the video of the podcast on YouTube, and then we will be uploading on our Buzzsprouts. Also, we are on Spotify and Apple and a couple other ones. I'll have to look it up and see where all the places that you can listen to this. And then I'll again watch it on YouTube. Let me know when you do listen, where you're listening from. Send me a message. You can also find me on all my social media pages at commongirlcreations, or my website at commongirl.net. Why Common Girl? Because I'm just a regular old common girl sharing some things that she's learned over the years and thought you might learn something from it and maybe take a little bit and apply it to your own life and make some adjustments, growth, improvement, that kind of stuff. So we are continuing our series on the laws of the universe, and I've covered some already. As far as the law of divine oneness, we did divine oneness, inspired action, law of attraction and action, which kind of covers a few different things, including law of vibration. And then I believe the inspired action also has a little bit of that transmuted energy in there as well. So if you want to kind of catch up, those episodes again are on online on my channel as well. So today we're going to talk about law of polarity. Now, the law of polarity, I'm going to be honest, I had not heard of the law of polarity in any detail or explanation. It was very hard to find some things on the web, and finding some videos that kind of really explain what polarity means in regards to the law. And I found a gentleman, his name is David Nagel, and I believe it's Neagle, David Nagel, and I highly recommend his channel. He also goes through the different laws, but he spends a lot of time on the law of polarity in detail. He has visual aids. I don't do visual aids, at least not yet, and really opened my eyes to not only what the law of polarity was, but how it worked within our life. And it's one of his favorites. It's actually one of mine as well. So we're going to dive a little bit into that. I do have some notes here. I keep turning my page over, but this is kind of what my notes look like. It's probably all backwards. I take notes on legal pads, so I have several legal pads kind of laying around in my stack. Also spiral notebooks. Anything that when I write, I know it sounds weird, but lay it flat on the table. So a spiral notebook looks really great for laying flat like this, but also the legal pad works really great for, that top to, I don't know, just the way you flip the pages. We all have our own little idiosyncrasies when it comes to things. I also like to write with a gel pen, something smooth and kind of flows really easily, because when I'm really in that mode of writing, if I either absorb information from something I'm watching or reading, I'm probably up to about 12 different books now in the last probably 9 months or so, and just taking those notes. I never ever like taking notes in school or college or anything like that, and I find, probably like most people, that when it's subject matter that I'm interested in and it makes sense and it's kind of flowing in and making, I have some clarity of thought and can kind of understand the process. I am just writing notes, and my notes are a little crazy because sometimes I'll, rewrite something I just read, or really what happens is I take in that information, kind of mull it in my own brain and put it out in my own words, and then when I go back to look at it, it makes a lot more sense. Otherwise, if I'm reading a book, why am I writing this stuff down? And then in my books, I have hard copy paperback books where you put your hands on them, but I also I do a lot of double underlining and highlight, if you guys ever did that in school. But then on my Kindle, I do that highlight yellow. I think it's yellow, blue, pink, and gold. So there's a lot of highlights going on. It means different things for me. And I do that because there's just so much information and material. And like I said, when I get really excited or I'm really finding that I'm really learning a subject matter and I just absorb it so fast that I want an opportunity to go back, and not that I don't want to read every word, then I'm just hitting those highlights. So okay, so let's dive into the law of polarity. So the law of polarity really talks about things that are wanted and unwanted. Esther Hicks, through Abraham, talks about there's really only two ends of a stick, two ends of a problem, two ends of a option, two ends of really any situation in your life. And that those ends, if you had a stick, I don't have one right near me, but if you had a stick, it's really going to be wanted, the things that are wanted on one end, or an outcome that is wanted, and on the other is unwanted. And in the middle, we have let's just picture a little timeline. And on one of those timelines, so you're going to have a line this way, and on one end, you're going to have negative, on the other, you're going to have positive. So again, unwanted and wanted. And then right down the middle is really that absolute plane, the difference. So if you look at like a cross like this, you're going to have, it's just what is. This is your what is, your current life, your current situation. So I'm going to use these examples, or this example of law of polarity dealing with finances, because I think it is one of the easiest things to visualize and understand. And then as I grow the channel and grow my ability to video and do different things, maybe I'll be like Mr. Nagel and have some whiteboard and some drawing. Otherwise you're going to try to be able to read stuff like this. So what the law of polarity says, it talks about wanted and unwanted, and everything has an equal and opposite energy. It's on a positive or negative, and then there's a spectrum or a timeline in between. So for everything that's negative, there's a positive that is true. For every negative emotion, there's an equal positive emotion that's true. For everything positive, there's an equal negative emotion that's true. Energy. For every positive energy, there's an equal opposite energy on the other side, and that's the polarity. So if you're looking at this in terms of money, so you have a timeline, and we're going to talk in some future episodes about what your financial thermostat is and how we can grow that when people are looking to manifest or create wealth into their lives. Money obviously is I think money and probably a specific person are the two most asked questions. How to get more money? How do I attract my specific person? And so we're going to talk about money. So let's say, your financial thermostat is kind of, you take the temperature of where you are either now or in the most recent future. And what you'll find over somebody's adult life as they work for at least the first few years, you tend to make about the same amount of money. You may have some times where you get bonuses or you get something a little extra, but really when you look at the scale of the American worker, I'm not sure if this is the same in Europe, if you're listening, but you're going, if you're working for somebody else in particular, working for a corporation, there's only a certain percentage of raise you get or bonus you get every year. So within a 3 to 5 year span, there's an average that you make, and that would be your financial thermostat. That's what you're living on. That's what again, it's not really the extras, but it's just that steady. If you took your income over the last 10 years and divided it, that average is going to be what we're talking about, that financial thermostat. So that's different for everybody. That could be for one person, that could look like $90,000 a year as an individual. It could be $90,000 as a couple. It could be, on the other end, if you're starting out, it could be $25,000, $30,000. And that's really where your thermostat is. If you make an average, for the majority of my life, I've made $70,000 a year. Then that's it's just a comfortable place. I mean, you can measure it. But when you really look at it, it's kind of eye-opening. And so you're going to start kind of at that place. So let's say you are somebody that, makes $40,000 a year. And that's what you've made over the last few years. Again, plus or minus some bonuses or a little bit of raises, but for the most part, $40,000 a year. So you're going to put that on one end of this timeline. Now, for some people, that may be a goal. The 40,000 may be the goal. For other people, it may be the starting place. So it just depends on who you are and your situation, where you would place that $40,000. So let's say that we're going to start maybe in our 20s, early 30s, and I'm at $40,000, and I really, really, really want to get to that, $80,000 mark. But it's really hard to get to that $80,000 mark because I'm getting up. I'm going through the same routine every morning. I'm going through the same routine on the drive to work. I'm getting my coffee the same. I'm going to the same building. I'm sitting at the same desk. I'm seeing the same customers. I'm doing the same work. And I'm trying to figure out how to get to $80,000. Now, where you put your attention, wherever your attention goes, energy flows. And this is really important. If you don't have an ability to write this down or draw it while you're sitting at your desk at work or even at home at night, then you need to visualize this timeline in your mind. And down the timeline is that kind of that middle ground, that what is. So let's say you're at $40,000 and you want to get to $80,000. You're going to write that $40,000 on that negative side of the timeline. You're going to write it, okay? And then you're going to look at that timeline, and you're just going to take your eyes and you're going to go to the positive side of the timeline to $80,000, approximately where that would be. Now I'm using 40 and 80 because it's even numbers and I can do the math on this. Okay. So, and when we're talking about the equal opposite energy, $40,000, we're negative over here and I want to create $80,000. And the very first thing you do to start that process is you turn your attention away from the $40,000 and you turn your attention to the $80,000. It's a visual. It may seem silly. It could be 30 and 60, 25 and 100. It doesn't make any difference. But you're starting what's unwanted and you're turning your eyes in it's just a horizontal. You're not looking up and down and all around. You're just looking the opposite direction. And you're going to look at what your end result, what you want your end result to be. Now, this could be an end result. End result is also called a goal. An end result does not have to mean I'm 35 years old and my end result at 80. It can be. I mean, that's a gap, and that is fantastic. If when you're 35, you know where you want to be at 80. But you can also do this for short term. You can do it in 30 days, 6 months, 1 year. You pick the time frame. For me, I'm going to be 52 this year. I tend to look at 5-year increments. So when I talk about where I'm at and where my end goal is, I'm really referring to about 5 years from now, but that works for me. So you decide this. You know why you're deciding it? Your spouse is not deciding it. Excuse me, your friends are not deciding it. Your mother is not, your father. I'm not deciding it. You are deciding where are you on that timeline of the unwanted, and where do you want your end result to be in this particular exercise, okay? The reason that's important is that you need to start seeing where this is on the timeline. And you need to understand that it's the same stick. It's the same spectrum. We just spend so much time staring at this side over here, looking at the unwanted, that we can't see the wanted. We can't physically see it. And if we can't see it, we don't have any other emotion except I can't see it. You may see it over here in your peripheral, but if you don't turn your attention to what you want, what your desire is, and again, we're using this for finances. This could be in a home. This could be in education. It could be just any topic. But we're so focused on what's unwanted, which is, if you're watching this, you want something more. So what's happening is you're just constantly staring at the 40,000 and wondering how you're going to get over here to the 80,000. How can you see that? Can you see that? No. If I'm right here all the time just staring at that, energy energy flows where your attention goes. So if you're in a constant state of, when I wake up in the morning, doing that same routine, doing that same process, and you're stuck on, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm at, this is what it's fine to acknowledge where you're at. We all need to know where we're at, especially when it comes to finances. You need to do a budget. You need to write these numbers down. But how do you ever expect to get, it's a real question, and it's a question I've asked myself. If I'm staring at the 40,000 every day, day in and day out, this is all I got, this is all I got, this is all I got, this is all I make. How are you seeing, how will you ever connect with what you really want, which is the 80,000 on the other end? Does this make sense? For every thing in your life, say it's tremendous, let's start with unwanted, tremendous grief. There's an equal and opposite emotion, an equal and opposite energy on the other side of that line. For as deep as your grief, that's as deep as the joy is waiting for you and the bliss. For as deep as the, what is the word? Disappointment, there is the equal and opposite on the other end of that timeline. And that's polarity. It's an equal and opposite energy is there. We don't see it. We don't experience it. We don't feel it. We don't even think about it, that could be true. Why? Because we're so focused and stuck on the problem of the day. And I'm not saying it's not a real problem. It's a real problem if you feel like you don't have enough money to make your ends meet. It's a real problem if you don't have enough food to feed your family. It's a real problem when you're very, very sick and don't see a way to get healthy. These are real things. I'm not saying they're not real. All I'm saying is, and really all of these teachers have been saying, is if that's all you focus on, that's all you're ever going to get. And the law of polarity promises this. For every unwanted energy, for every unwanted situation, for every lack that you experience, there was an equal and opposite energy right in front of you. The first thing you must do is look. You must turn away from what is in front of you, and you must start focusing on what your end result looks like. Okay? You have to change your attitude, develop a very clear image of what it is you want, and you need to be specific. Now, if you can't be specific, because this is new and I couldn't be specific at first, and I started with just general, bigger things. So instead of thinking about and kind of turning my mind's eye to, more money, whether that was in the salary, whether that was in sales, whether that was in gifts, you have to have the attitude or change the attitude of, it never happens to me, it won't happen, I'm going to try it, it's kind of stupid, I don't have it. You have to change your attitude. It starts with your attitude. You have to really develop that clear image. And so for me, it was, I just want the weight, and we've talked about this in the other videos and the other podcasts, the weight, the burden I feel every day, carrying my family, carrying myself. And not that the family is a burden. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the responsibility of taking care of everything, every single thing, from school to medical care to making sure all the bills are paid, to making sure your hair is done and you're showered. And I mean, there's just all these, make sure the car runs. And it's just so much we carry every day. I get a little excited when I talk about this because I'm very passionate. And I couldn't figure out because I was stuck in so long. And it was a great life. I've had a great life. I've had a great time being a mom and raising my kids, and I'm a fun worker, and I've had a great life. I haven't had a bad life, but I've always known there's more. And I've always known it can't be this hard. Why are we here if it's just so freaking hard? Back in the day, I grew up Catholic, and we were taught about purgatory. Even the Catholics say that's not true anymore. But, you go to purgatory before, you do your time here on earth like it's a prison sentence, and you go sit in purgatory till you get judged whether you're going to go north or south. It's ridiculous. But, you do how many times have you heard, when you do your penance here on earth, you go straight to heaven. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. Okay. It's not true. You actually can live in heaven on earth. You can actually have everything you've ever wanted. You can actually have as much money as you want. You can have as many things if you want. And you can do that. You have the power to do that. And you have to understand that whatever negative situation, or let's just say maybe it's just distracting. It's keeping you just away from, just out of arm's reach of your goal, right? So maybe it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, but whatever negative thought is keeping you or keeping your eye off of the end result, the end goal. Mine is I wanted a weight lifted off for some financial freedom. I didn't identify the amount because I didn't know how much that was. I was so used to living paycheck to paycheck and week to week and month to month and holiday to holiday, birthday to birthday. I didn't know what that amount was. I didn't have any, relationship with, I need 50,000, 100,000. I don't know how much I needed. I just knew I needed the burden, the weight of it lifted. So you look here, and I'm looking at the weight smothering me. And then law of polarity says that there's an equal and opposite energy for that weight. So that means there's lightness, there is a lift, if you turn your energy towards the wanted. And by that simple change of attitude, and by taking that first step, the fog, the weight, the darkness started to clear. And then when it clears, you start developing and start seeking, like, what's a good image? So then I started thinking, maybe it is, I would never ask for like $70,000. Oh my gosh, it just seems like millions of dollars. Well, if it does, then why don't you ask for $1 million? Okay, why don't you talk, I need $2 million. That's fine. Whatever you want. Now, there's some people that tell you be reasonable. But what's reason when you're dealing with the universe, when you're dealing with the creator inside of you? What is reasonable? Like I said, that depends on, if you want to do this at a 30-day increment or base it on 6 months or 5 years. That's totally up to you. But you won't know what it is until you stop looking at where you're at and you turn slightly, just turn slightly to start with, at what's wanted. And then because when that attitude changes, when that just for a minute, even being silly, just be ridiculous about it. Then you start getting ideas. Now imagination starts going. You start getting a clearer image. Okay, maybe this is the dollar amount. Maybe this is the specific car. Maybe this is the specific body image. You can do this for your body too. Body image. Maybe that, but you can't keep looking at where you are and expect anything to change. You're only going to feel discouraged, and you're going to keep beating that dead horse, and you're going to try 50,000 things to get out of it. You're going to, listen to all this. You got to work harder, get 3 jobs. 3 jobs is not going to get you out of the hole. It's going to get your body hurt. And then where's your family going to be? So there is a better way. There is an easier way. And understanding the law of polarity, for everything that you're going through, there's an equal and opposite energy on the other side. So look left or look right, however you did your timeline. My negative is always left and my positive is always right. That's just me. So you're going to develop a clear image, and then you're going to repeat that image. You're going to get it in your mind, that you're going to write it down. If you can't visualize, some people can't. They can't actually visually see. When I say something like, when I talk about a clock, I visually, right now, looking into this camera, I actually visually see a clock in my brain. Some people don't, and that's fine. They may see the word clock. That's just an example. So whatever it is, Get a pen and paper, because it's going to inspire you to write something down. And again, you don't have to start with 5 things. You don't have to start with anything but one. What is the one unwanted thing that's driving you crazy right now? Is it a feeling? I'm so depressed. I feel so depressed. I feel worthless. I don't feel healthy. I feel tired all the time. I don't have enough money. I don't have a good job. You're just, whatever it is, write it down, and then immediately take your eyes visually away from it and look to the opposite end. And what is the opposite? The exact equal opposite of what you're thinking, feeling, doing, having, or receiving. And that is where you need to have your eye. That is where your mind needs to go. You have to closely guard. I'm going to read this because David Nagel said this. And again, he has so much more information. We're going to be diving more into law of polarity. But you see why I like it. It's so easy to visualize. It's so easy to see. Wanted, unwanted, positive, negative. If there's, if I'm suffering with negative, if I'm in debt $25,000, guess what? Equal opposite energy means I can have excess. I have excess. In the same field, in the same realm, on the same spectrum, $25,000 in debt over here, equal opposite energy, 25,000 in abundance or extra over here. It's the same. You just have to turn your mind's eye and actually your physical eyes to see it. But closely guard all that you think. Bet on yourself. It's selfish, and you need to be selfish. You've given up too much for everybody else. You've sacrificed too much for your children. You've sacrificed too much for your spouse. You've sacrificed too much for your friends, for your coworkers, for the multi-million-dollar businesses. You've sacrificed too much. You've done too much. It is time to bet on yourself. And you can do this because you're not alone. You are doing this with the co-creator that lives within you, with the part of the universe, the soul, the God that lives within you. And together, through your breathing, through your calming, through your just turn away. Turn away for 15 minutes. Stop looking at the bills. Just turn away. You got a $25,000 debt? Okay. You also got $25,000 in surplus over here. Look at that for a little bit. You got to give your brain a break. You got to give your soul a break. You got to give your heart a break. And you must be selfish. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot give what you do not have. No matter how much of a good intention it is. We were not put here to be martyrs. We were put on this earth. We chose to come here to earth to live these lives in abundance and love. And it's time to stop being controlled by everything around you. Bet on yourself. You got this. Throw out all the bullshit. Throw it out. It's bullshit. We're going in recession. We're never going to be able to afford gas again. Nobody's ever going to find a job. We're not going to find a house we can afford. Everything's going to, we're all hating each other. White hates black. Black hates white. Black hates Latino. Latino hates white. It doesn't make any difference. These are news stories. These are clickbaits. This is social media. It's not true. I know we have some heartache and some hardship and anger, and we have a long way to go. But we can't fix those problems until we start being selfish and get real with ourselves. You can't go and fight somebody else's battle when you're drowning in your own unwantedness, when you're drowning in unworthy, when you're drowning in debt, when you're doing these things. You cannot help another soul. You cannot do it. And if you try, you're going to literally work yourself to death. And nobody wants that. Nobody. Disregard every bit of trash in your life that is negative. I don't care if it's screaming at you right now to get off the podcast, screaming at you right now to get off the computer. I don't care if it's your boss, your mother, your sister, your kid. Every bit of negative is nothing but trash that you need to throw out of your brain. It is a waste of time. For every bit of trash, there's a gift waiting for you right on the other side of that spectrum. You just have to look. You have to want it, and you got to start there. It is possible to turn everything into probable. It is, your attention's going to go where your energy flows. And it is always present. Wealth is always present with poverty. You just have to look at the wealth because you deserve it. You all deserve it. So this was just a little snapshot and a little passionate, sorry about that, regarding the law of polarity. And we're going to dive more into this once I get through all the rest of the laws. And we're really going to hone in and really start using this law quite a bit. And I think it will change lives. Also check out David Nagel, like I said, Neagle, I believe is the spelling of his name. And he goes into this in depth as well. So thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Share this. And